Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
So everybody's asking, where was this? Everybody's asking, where's this been? Why didn't we see any of this before last night? I have the answers for you. And you'll remember the answers make sense. It would have been fun, yeah, but there are answers to that question and a lot more coming up here.
Live from the Southern Command in sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday!
As we wrap up another busy broadcast week here at the EIB Network, Open Line Friday, great to have you with us. And remember, you are not limited by what you think I want to hear or talk about. You can talk about whatever you want. That's what Open Line Friday is. 800-282-2882 is the email address. And is the phone number. The email address is rushbaugh@eibnet.com. So we have some overview observations to start with. I have to tell you, and in no particular order, just what's on the top of my mind now, and as things pop into my mind. Rubio has changed the tone of this thing. Now he's mocking Trump. He's calling Trump a con artist out there. And now what he's doing, he's going out at his appearance in Dallas today. He's actually reading and making fun of Trump tweets. Here, I'll give you a sample. This is Rubio just this morning in Dallas during a campaign event, and this is how this is now happening.
Let me tell you something. Last night in the debate during one of the breaks, two of the breaks, he went backstage. He was having a meltdown. First, he had this little makeup thing applying, like, makeup around his mustache because he had one of those sweat mustaches. Then he asked for a full-length mirror. I don't know why, because the podium goes up to here, but he wanted a full-length mirror. Maybe to make sure his pants weren't wet. I don't know. Then I see him pacing back and forth, and then he's huddled in the corner talking to somebody. He's like waving his arms up and down, and the person's trying to calm him down.
Well, he also read from his tweets, and he was making fun of Trump misspellings. Apparently, Trump's misspelled the word choker, CHOCKER, and a couple other things. He was actually holding up his phone and reading Trump tweets and making fun of them. Now, this hasn't happened. Nobody has done this, at least not in this way. And certainly the candidates have not gone there where Trump is concerned, and everybody's asking why. Where was all this before last night? How come Trump didn't go after, or Cruz didn't go after Trump, and how come Rubio didn't? And there are reasons. Now, you may not agree with them, but we got to go back in time to understand this because it requires memory. First place, Jeb Bush was in there, and there were a whole lot more people on stage in previous debates than were there last night. But the main reason nobody went after Trump until last night, well, let's put it this way. The main reason nobody went after Trump before last night, there were two reasons. One reason is that everybody, and this is especially true of Cruz in this case, Cruz could have taken Trump out anytime he wants. I think Rubio could have too. That's the reason people are asking this question is because it's so frustrating. This all happened last night. Yeah, all good and well, but it's probably too late, people are saying. It's too late for it to matter because Cruz and Rubio have too much ground to cover and not enough time to cover it. But they could have taken Trump out long ago. So why didn't they? Well, one of the reasons is everybody expected Trump to implode, and they didn't want to tick off his voters. It's really no more complicated than that, particularly in the case of Cruz. I mean, you could see early on that Cruz, and he was not alone in thinking that Trump was going to blow up and bomb out. Everybody has thought that. Republican establishment thought Trump was going to implode. They've been hoping he was going to implode. Everybody thought it was going to happen at some point or another, and they wanted to be able to scoop up Trump supporters when that happened. And so everybody said, let's not make them mad. Let's ride with this. Let's keep the gloves off when it comes, or to keep the gloves on, actually, when it comes to Trump, so that we don't irritate his voters, so that when it comes time that they're up for grabs, that we have a shot at him. And I think that's the overriding reason why all this time in the past people didn't hit Trump. I don't think it's people were afraid of him. If people were afraid of Trump, they would still be afraid of him, and they wouldn't have done what they did last night. I don't think this has been about fear. It may have been about fear or concern of angering Trump's voters. But I don't think these guys are worried about Trump per se coming back at them. You know, this is something that's been bandied about for the entirety of this campaign. You know, these people, they see what happens. You go after Trump, and Trump comes right back at you. You know, he hits back at you, and you end up being destroyed. And that's the reason these guys are afraid of what Trump's going to say. I don't think that was it at all. I think they were strategically planning to pick up Trump voters, pick up the pieces when and if Trump imploded. And turned out to be a miscalculation, because Trump has not imploded. And he didn't implode. Rubio, I think, held back, hoping that Cruz or the media would take Trump out. I think Jeb hung back, thinking that Trump would implode and that others would take him out. But none of that happened. And it was really rooted in a desire that when such time as Trump's campaign went south, that people would be able to pick up his voters, and it was all about not making them mad. Which, at the time, made perfect sense. Well, it makes perfect sense if you accept the premise that Trump's going to implode. If you think that Trump's voters are going to be up for grabs at some point, it makes perfect sense not to do something to tick them off, like personally going after Trump. But now, all bets are off. None of that matters, because these guys don't have any time. Cruz has got to win Texas on Tuesday. Rubio has to win Florida on March 15th. However, I should point out to you, ladies and gentlemen, Rubio and the Republican establishment have been huddling, and they are plotting ways. I told you this was going on. I didn't know it, but it's common sense tells you it is, that Rubio and some donors and some establishment types are plotting ways to blow up the convention so that, not broker it, because that's not really possible, but just blow it up and to deny it to Trump. Now, here's the problem with that. If Trump ends up with the number of delegates that he needs in the primary process, there's nothing they can do. If he has the only way that they can blow the convention up is if nobody shows up with the minimum number of delegates to win, which is what, at 1,237 or 1,327, I forget the number, but it's in that range. If they follow the rules. If they follow the rules. Then who is this Telemundo babe last night? What you realize it was bizarre. This Telemundo moderator, her name was Maria Celeste Arasa. She did not ask a single question. She made speeches. Some of her questions were longer than the 30-second time limit answers the candidates were given. And they were all about her thoughts on Hispanics and immigration. And at the end of every speech, she said to the candidate to whom she was asking, "Do you get it?" And if she didn't get the answer she wanted, then she went to somebody else and asked, after making her speech, "Do you think he gets it? Do you think they get it?" And it was all about Hispanics and illegal immigration. And don't you people understand that if you continue to oppose illegal immigration, the Hispanics are going to hate you? And it was this continuation of this notion that Hispanics are monolithic. They all think the same, and they all think the U.S. should pay no attention to its laws, no matter what they are, if Hispanics benefit from it. It's absolutely a crock. But she was there, and it's more and more the same of the drive-by media doing what they can to pick our candidate. I also noticed that Trump was in trouble for much of the debate last night in ways that we've not seen Trump in trouble. And I thought, now this is just me as a viewer, I thought that Wolf Blitzer had a plan for bailing Trump out when he got into what appeared to be a jam, and that was to go to Kasich. And Kasich is his own interesting case. A couple of observations about Kasich. In the Apple iPhone business, the FBI, Kasich mocks what's going on now and says what a real president would do. What a real president would do is get everybody and bring them in the Oval Office and shut the doors and settle this and negotiate this and not do it on the front page of the New York Times. And everybody, yay, yay. No, that's not what's supposed to happen in matters like the president is the FBI. The president is the executive branch. The president is the Department of Justice. A situation like that, Kasich's answers were typical of somebody who thinks the government ought to be involved in everything. And that's the red flag for me. I'll give you another example of that. When they were discussing health care, and Kasich was bragging about how they've done it in Ohio. And one of the things he said, with plans that he has, ideas, is to lower prices by convincing doctors. You've got the upper range, you've got the lower range of prices, and somewhere in the middle is the sweet spot. And his idea is to convince and persuade doctors to charge nearer the bottom of the range in exchange for financial rewards. I said, well, who's going to come up with the financial rewards? Where are the financial rewards coming from? Government? So government's going to sit there and try to persuade doctors to charge less in order to bring down costs. And in exchange for doing that, they get rewards, and that's the incentive. And somehow this is going to save money? I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense. Who's paying for the rewards? And we didn't hear how much the rewards are. We didn't hear what the bonuses are. We didn't hear any figures, numbers, percentages, or anything of the sort. So theoretically, wow, sounds like really good stuff. But once again, it's nothing but the government involved in fixing everything, solving everything. Whatever mess is out there, government's got the solution. And it always involves the government coming up with and defining what fairness is and then enforcing it on everything. I don't know. Red flags went up, folks. I'm just telling you when I heard all this stuff. Ben Carson probably had the line of the night when he asked people to attack him so that he'd get to speak and say something. He did have a memorable line. He said you'd learn much more from somebody by looking at the fruit salad of their life rather than an interview. And, I like that, people said. That really sounds cool. That sounds really, really good. Yeah, I know. Rubio mocking Trump for sweating, that's a little bit... But that's not the point. The point is they went out and made fun of Trump last night. That hasn't happened, particularly Rubio. One of the things that stood out for me was Rubio's... What is get rid of the lines. What does he mean? He keeps talking about the lines. Talking about health insurance. And we all know what was going on. I think this is an illustration of something, actually. The point is, in health insurance companies right now can only offer policies in certain states. They can't sell policies in neighboring states or other states. And the way this ends up being described in the news media and when people talk about this is that generally it's said we need to allow the insurance companies to cross state lines in order to be able to sell in more places, and that would create competition, that would lower prices. So Trump is talking about the lines, and we've got to get rid of the lines. And Rubio said, what do you mean lines business? What do you mean state lines? He didn't even know what he's talking about, Rubio said. And then Trump went on to demonstrate that he does understand what they're talking about, but still, you just know that he was the product of advisors telling him about this, and they also used the state lines analogy, and so that's what stuck with Trump in his explaining it, and that that enabled Rubio and Cruz both to make the point that Trump really doesn't know what he's talking about here. He really is shallow. Rubio makes fun of him for repeating himself over and over 5 times in 5 seconds, and the crowd seemed to love it. I heard Chris Wallace on Fox today said, I didn't like this at all. I thought, yeah, it was a great show, but I didn't see anybody act presidential. I didn't see anything in that debate last night, Chris Wallace said, that made me confident that anybody on that stage has the depth to actually lead this country. I just saw a bunch of people attacking each other and trying to score points, debate points here and there. So the reactions to this are all over the place, and we'll get yours too as the program unfolds. We got audio soundbite highlights as well. So hang on, got it revved up here, set the table back, and continue after this. What was that? Oh, I don't. Well, I'm sure you're going to weigh in on this. In terms of substance, I disagree with Chris Wallace. I think there was substance in this debate last night. And depending on what you want, depending on what you were hoping to see and what you think going forward, I mean, if there's really only one candidate in this debate last night, which was chock full of genuine, policy-oriented substance, that was Cruz. And I happen to know, I hear from people constantly, as you can imagine, and I hear from you even on the phones, but there have been people during the entirety of this campaign who think that Trump is a pretender, that he really doesn't know much about what all this is about, that he's getting by on the cult of celebrity and other things in our pop culture that people get excited by and attached to. And there have been people who got to expose Trump. Trump's got to be exposed. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know conservatism. He doesn't know policy. He's just up there saying things that sound good in a populist sense. So what Cruz did last night was essentially expose that. If that's what you think needs and has needed to happen, Cruz did it last night. And probably the best way to illustrate how it happened is one of the fears that a lot of anti-Trump people have is he's not really even a Republican. And they keep talking about all of his donations to people like Chuck Schumer and the Clintons, and Trump's response was, hey, look, I live in New York City and they run the show there and I'm in business. And there's certain things that you have to do to get done. You have to work with these people. But I'm a Republican. And he's made it clear, and he's tried to make that point over and over again. What Trump found last night, Ted Cruz illustrating that, look, if you think we have to beat Hillary Clinton, Trump's not the guy to do it. Trump cannot go out and hit Hillary Clinton on any of the things that she has done, any of her corruption, because he has contributed to her. He has donated. All that would have to happen, Cruz says, is for Trump to hit Hillary in a debate, and Hillary, all she's got to do is, well, Donald, I don't know what your problem is. You donated to me to do this exact thing, so I don't know what your problem is now. And Cruz said we can't nominate somebody. It's akin to the people that said we shouldn't nominate Romney. If we nominate Romney, there's no way we can get Obama on Obamacare because Romney invented it. In Massachusetts, Romney gave us Romney Care, and the guy that wrote Romney Care then turned around and wrote Obamacare, and it took Obamacare off the table as far as Romney's concerned. He couldn't hit it because there's a retort. What do you mean you don't like Obamacare? You wrote its father. You implemented and signed into law its father, Romney Care. And Cruz's point was that same set of circumstances with Hillary are going to occur because it can be demonstrated that Trump's donations to the Clintons over the years, including to the Clinton Crime Family Foundation, have facilitated political moves that Hillary Clinton has made. So the people who have wanted Trump exposed was pretty substantively done by Cruz. On the Rubio side, what Rubio did was literally just laugh at Trump all night, literally make fun of him, mock him, not act frightened or afraid of him, and not worried about ticking off his supporters either. A first for both. No. I know that. I know what. All right, let me try this again. Trump was right on the state lines, but I understand Trump was right. Let me try this again. It's rare that I have to say things again because I make the complex understandable. But I may have had to hurry through this. Here's Rubio making fun of Trump, talking about getting rid of the lines in the health insurance market. You got to get rid of the lines around the state. Trump said. We got to keep getting rid of the lines. And Rubio's, what is this? And starts making circles with his hands. Get rid of the lines? What's he talking about? Get rid of the lines. And Trump says, you got to get rid of the lines. Everybody knows this. You got to get rid of the lines. So you get rid of the lines, it means the insurance companies can then go sell their products in more than just one state, and it expands competition, and then it lowers prices. All of that's true. But Rubio was making a joke about Trump's continual usage of the word lines. My point is, Trump has, this is what I think happened. I think this is the explanation for it. Not that Trump doesn't understand market principles. Come on. Of course he does. But he's got advisors. There's no question. We know he's got advisors. Their names are known and their jobs are known. And occasionally we know that Trump meets with them. And like before any debate, he has powwows with all of his advisors, and they might even rehearse. They might pepper Trump with questions about things that either have or have not come up, give him familiarity with it so that he's ready to go if the question does come up. And I'll just guarantee you that when Trump has been advised about this aspect of Obamacare and the conservative belief that the insurance companies have an unfair deal here, that Obama's greased their skids by limiting competition and demanding that customers, Americans, buy the product. And it's true. I mean, the insurance companies, there's no way they're not going to support Obama. He's just passed a law requiring citizens to buy their product, which is unconstitutional until John Roberts got a hold of it and changed all of that to a tax, which meant the government could do it. But at the end of the day, the federal government still requires every citizen, mandates, that everybody buy insurance. The second aspect is insurance companies can only sell where they are licensed and regulated within single states. People in New York, for example, people in New York State, I believe, have 4 options, 4 plans to choose from, because they cannot go out of state. They can't go to Connecticut. They can't go to Pennsylvania. Can't go to New Jersey in quest or in seeking a better deal, because of the way the federal government has set it up to protect the insurance companies, to limit their competition, to give them a guaranteed market. I am convinced that the way this was explained to Trump was, we need to allow insurance companies to cross state lines and do their business. That's the way this issue is discussed. It's the way it's taught to people that don't understand it. It's the way it's explained. State lines are just borders, and you just cross the state line. It just means that you are able to sell anywhere. It means you're able to go anywhere and buy if you're a customer. But because it had been drilled into him, I'm sure by his advisors, I'm sure the phrase, we got to let people cross state lines to go out, that's what he remembers from the advice sessions, and that's what he kept repeating. And Rubio starts making fun of that. Now, Trump, on the substance of it all, was dead right. It's a closed market. It's the government guaranteeing the insurance companies customers, and it's price fixing. When customers are limited in options to buy, then there's no need to cut prices. So I'm just trying to explain why the whole thing about lines was a deal, why Rubio was able to make fun of it, and why Trump continued to use the phrase. Because I'm convinced that's how he learned what's going on here. My guess is that most people do not know the intricate details of how Obamacare works, including, I think, probably some people that are running for office or planning to run for office. It's very few people that really know the intimate details of this monstrosity. It's 2,000 pages. And there's some highlights in this thing that everybody has to know if you're going to oppose it. They have to be taught. They have to be informed. And this is one of those key things. We have to allow customers to cross state lines to buy policies. We have to allow insurance companies to sell across state lines. That's just the way it's explained to people. And if you didn't know it beforehand, and that's what it took to get you to remember it and understand it, that's what you're going to use. So I'm just saying that's how Trump learned about it. or that's how he was informed. That's how his advisors brought him up to speed on the whole thing. Let's start with the audio sound bites, get some reviews and just some highlights, some of the things that happened. During the debate, of course, Trump's taxes came up because Romney dropped that bombshell earlier in the week that Trump's obviously hiding something, that his wealth either isn't as great as he says, or his donations, charitable donations, are not what he says. There's a problem there. It's a bombshell, Romney says. I think what Romney was doing, as I said yesterday, was freezing endorsements. I think the establishment's very worried that we're going to be establishment Republicans drifting from the party and joining Trump. And the party doesn't want that to happen. So they send Romney out there to accuse Trump of having something really, really wrong with his taxes. And that is meant to freeze potential elected Republicans who were thinking about endorsing Trump into stopping for a minute until this is all solved. So Wolf Blitzer last night. Mr. Trump yesterday, the last nominee, Mitt Romney, called on you to release your tax returns, your back taxes, and said there's good reason to believe there's a bombshell in them. Romney said either you're not as wealthy as you say you are, said maybe you haven't paid the kind of taxes we would expect you to pay, or you haven't been giving the money to veterans or disabled people. Are any of those accusations that he has leveled against you true?
As far as my return, I want to file it, except for many years, I've been audited every year, 12 years or something like that. Every year they audit me. Nobody gets audited. I have friends that are very wealthy people. They never get audited. I get audited every year. I will absolutely give my return, but I'm being audited now for 2 or 3 years, so I can't do it until the audit is finished, obviously, and I think people would understand that.
What he means is that the current audit is of a 3-year period. You know, in many cases when the IRS audits you or when the state audits, not just 1 year. They audit 2 or 3 at the same time. So that's what he's saying. He's under an audit now for whatever 3 years, and I'm not going to release my taxes in the middle of this audit. And his point here is, I don't know how this is going to end up. I got people accusing me of cheating and doing this, and if I release these taxes in the middle of an audit before things are solved here, that's not going to help anybody, make any sense. I'm going to wait till the audit's finished. And then the retort to that is, well, release some years that are not under audit. So the subject came up after the debate. Oh, speaking of which, Snerdley, I don't know if you're aware of this. I turned CNN off after the debate, and I went over to Fox because I wanted to listen to what they said over there. And I was going back and forth, but I ended up staying at Fox and started getting emails that Trump, after the debate, CNN had him on 3 separate times. 3 additional interviews of 10 minutes, 12 minutes, where he was allowed to expand, revise his remarks, correct or something, and that caused people emailing me to, look at Rush, they're picking our nominee again. Did you see what happened to Rush? Every time Trump got in trouble, Wolf Blitzer goes over to Kasich, and they give Kasich 20 minutes to babble on it with verbal diarrhea, and it shut everything down. Every time Trump, I'm getting all this email flooding in, so I looked at it, and it looked like that was happening. It looked like Wolf Blitzer did try to bail Trump out now and then. And then they had him on a bunch of times after the debate. And look, we've discussed the networks don't want Trump going anywhere. He's ratings, folks. The ratings for this debate are through the roof compared to 2 or 3 prior. Because everybody knew. I had told everybody yesterday what was going to happen in this debate, and I turned out to be right on the money. This was going to be, the gloves come off because this is the last chance both Rubio and Cruz have before do-or-die states show up. Anyway, in one of these post-debate interviews, Chris Cuomo is interviewing Trump. He says, they came at you tonight about something that's in the news right now, and that really is at your control, which is your tax returns. Mitt Romney, during the debate, was bringing it up again, saying you could show your taxes in a second if you want to. What is Trump delaying? What do you have to say about that?
Mitt is just trying to remain relevant. Nobody's talking to him much anymore. He got some publicity today. But the one problem I have is that I'm always audited by the IRS, which I think is very unfair. I don't know, maybe because of religion, maybe because of something else, maybe because I'm doing this, although this is just recently.
What do you mean religion?
Well, maybe because of the fact that I'm a strong Christian and I feel strongly about it, and maybe there's a bias.
You think maybe you get audited for being a strong Christian?
You see what's happened.
He's a strong Christian, so there's an attempt at linkage there with the Tea Party. Then also, which we have the audio coming up, Trump doubled down defending Planned Parenthood last night. And he doubled down on being neutral in the Middle East. Did you happen to notice one of the qualifications Mr. Trump announced last night for having the ability to negotiate peace in the Middle East? Yeah, he was a grand marshal in an Israeli parade in Manhattan. He said that. So, people are my email's been overflowing, asking me to explain things. Why would he double down on Planned Parenthood? I don't understand. He's got to know after everything that's happened. Let me try to explain it this way. How many of you have heard of a clothing company by the name of Land's End? Well, they got themselves in heap big doo-doo this week because whoever runs Land's End, and I'm not sure if it's a male or female CEO, but they announced their latest marketing campaign. Their catalogs and their billboards and their printed materials. And it seems that everything in their most recent campaign is a tribute to Gloria Steinem of the Nags for all of her great work. And one of the pictures of Gloria Steinem in all of the marketing paraphernalia Land's End put out there is Gloria Steinem wearing a T-shirt with her arms held up in some sort of victory pose. The T-shirt says, "I had an abortion." Well, there was an eruption all over this country anti-Land's End. And the CEO of Land's End was totally taken aback, totally shocked, did not know what had happened. And you know why? Because the CEO of Land's End lives among a bunch of leftists, and that's all the CEO of Land's End knows. Everybody the CEO knows loves Gloria Steinem. Everybody loves Planned Parenthood. Everybody the CEO knows loves abortion. So as far as the CEO is concerned, everybody does. This is what I mean about the disconnect. Here you have a CEO of a major American corporation clueless that by statistical analysis, over half of his or her customers oppose Gloria Steinem, maybe more than that oppose her, certainly oppose abortion. Had no idea, no earthly idea, till nobody in the company he warned them about the campaign. We may not want to do this. Why not? Well, a lot of people, customers don't like, Federica Macchione, female CEO, 43 years old. In her world, which is all she knows, she doesn't know a soul who doesn't think Gloria Steinem's a queen. She doesn't know a single person who doesn't think Planned Parenthood is the greatest thing on earth. She was genuinely blindsided and shocked. She had no idea. The point is, these leftists, particularly New York, Boston, Washington, they lead the most insular lives. They do nothing but hang around with like-minded people, and they have no clue. And so that's how you can end up thinking Planned Parenthood is one of the greatest damn places on earth, that they do all kinds of wonderful things for women's health when they don't. They don't do great things for women's health. They don't do mammograms. They don't do any of the things these people think they do. But they believe they do. And they don't know a soul who doesn't think so. Back in just a second. Okay, so now we know it was Trump had a press conference announced, and it's begun, and the purpose is Chris Christie, Governor Christie, New Jersey, has just endorsed Donald Trump for president and is explaining why. We're rolling sound. We'll have that for you. in the next hour. I heard him say that he and Mary Pat, his wife, have been friends with Donald and Melania for a long time. And so Christie is officially now on the Trump bandwagon, having endorsed him. Here's Joe in Lakeland, Florida. Great to have you on the program, sir. You're up first today. Hello.
Thank you, Rush. It's an honor for me to be able to talk to you, and I'm a first-time caller and a long-time listener.
Thank you, sir.
I just wanted to basically share some things, and I follow the political arena pretty closely, that the Trumpsters better get out of panic mode and start dealing with reality, because politics has never changed. The players have changed. The politics has never changed, and they're going to throw at him like they do everyone who puts their name out there for public consumption, everything they can find, everything they can dig up, and the challenge for him is to be able to address those quickly and put them away, okay, and not complain, because all the complaining in the world won't change what the media is going to do. In fact, let me tell you what, last night wasn't even a good warm-up for him for what the Democrats will do, and you and I both know that. Basically, that's what I wanted to share with you.
Look, it's not that this stuff isn't out there. There have been any number of bloggers and journalists in various places target feathering Trump on this stuff. This was the first time the candidates really made a big deal out of it. Jeb tried, but Jeb did it along the lines of, we just can't have a president who's elected because he's an insult king. That didn't go anywhere. But this was the first time that any of the supposed incompetencies or failings of Trump actually got mentioned in a debate. And I'll just tell you out there, Joe, the conventional wisdom is it's too little too late. There just isn't enough time for any of it to have any sufficient impact to do two things: A, harm Trump, and then elevate either Cruz or Rubio sufficiently to where they could overtake him. Minor correction. Land's End was donating proceeds, sales of their products, to Gloria Steinem's organization. It's a minor. Anyway, it doesn't change what happened. People blew up, and the Land's End CEO had no clue what hit her. And they changed. This is not going to make Kasich happy, folks. This is not. I think we can expect fireworks. There's a Fox debate Thursday. Next Thursday. I think it's next Thursday. Yeah, it's next Thursday. So I'm convinced Kasich was hanging in there for a vice presidential nod from Trump. Not Rubio, but now that Christie has joined the team with Sarah Palin.
Live from the Southern Command in sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday!
Anyway, great to have you here. Rush Limbaugh behind the golden EIB microphone. Meeting and surpassing all audience expectations every day. It's great to have you. The telephone number is 800-282-2882. And the email address, lrushbo@eibnet.com. So you have to assume that Christie figures that Trump is going to be the nominee. Right? And then you have to figure Christie wants a job. I mean, he'd love to be in the regime, the Trump regime, maybe VP, maybe Attorney General. But it's interesting. When Trump looks possibly to be in trouble, and I say that advisedly because there are so many in the media who are so frustrated. You can't believe how frustrated they are that nobody's taken Trump out. They have, and it hasn't mattered. And they're all upset that the candidates haven't gone after Trump. And they're so excited that it finally happened last night. And they're worried that it's too little, it's too late, but they're hoping. They're hoping this means this is the implosion everybody's been waiting for. This is the moment of explosion, of blow-up that we've all been waiting for. Trump was exposed last night. So many of them are thinking it, so many writing it, so many hoping it, so many saying it. And the minute Trump appears to be in trouble, here comes Christie to endorse And so here you've got two fighters, you've got two no BS guys, you've got one from New York, got one from New Jersey. You just got to be careful, Trump's got to make sure we get to October to keep Christie away from Hillary. That's the only potential. Well, I'm just intelligence guided by experience. And other than that, it could be smooth sailing. 800-282-2882, as I say. Here, let's go back to the audio sound bites because there's a lot from last night that we want to get into and react to. This is Trump professing his huge support and his qualifications for leading foreign policy, particularly with Israel and the Palestinians, the Middle East et al.
I was the Grand Marshal down Fifth Avenue a number of years ago for the Israeli Day Parade. I have very close ties to Israel. I've received the Tree of Life Award and many of the greatest awards given by Israel. As president, however, there's nothing that I would rather do to bring peace to Israel and its neighbors generally. And I think it serves no purpose to say that you have a good guy and a bad guy.
Serves no purpose to say we've got a good guy and a bad guy. And both Cruz and Rubio just jumped on that and asked and pointed out, how in the world can you look at the Palestinians or Hamas or Hezbollah and Israel and see moral equivalence? How can you not see there's a good guy and a series of bad guys in that arrangement? How can you not see that one of these states is our ally and one of these states is the enemy of our ally and therefore our enemy? I mean, they were just all over this. And Cruz, in particular, the way he went after things like this was to point out that in his life and his time in the Senate, and even as Attorney General of Texas, he's been involved in all these things. He's got a record on all of these things. He's demonstrated what he will do. He's demonstrated where he comes down on these things. He's demonstrated his toughness. And in all of these things, he's got a single question. Where was Donald? Donald says he opposes Obamacare. He says he's going to overturn it. Where was Donald when we were trying to stop it? I didn't see Donald. Donald wasn't anywhere. When we're trying to save Israel, when we're trying to, Cruz made the point last night that when Obama slapped the no-fly cancellation of all flights into Israel during a particular moment of warfare, that I was the guy. I moved in. I was the guy that spent days getting that ban lifted because it was destroying the Israeli economy. I'm the guy. Where was Donald? It was Cruz's question on everything Trump says he's for and everything that he will do. Cruz was saying, well, these issues have been fought over for a long time, and I haven't seen Donald involved in any of it. But I have been there. And this is what I have done in those issues. These are the ways I've led. I don't care whether it's Obamacare, whether it's Israel, Planned Parenthood, terrorism, whatever it is. I've been there, and nobody's seen Donald in any of it. Rubio, when it came time to get in on this, did much the same in terms of expressing incredulity that you can't look at Israel and the Palestinians and not see a good guy and a bad guy. And the way Rubio dealt with it was to continue to mock and to make fun of it. So I think I know what Trump's doing here. I think we saw the beginnings of it in the South Carolina debate. And I think some people, it's not that people are making mistakes. I'm not saying Cruz and Rubio are making mistakes, but it's clear to me that Trump is using the occasion of these debates now to reach beyond the Republican base. The difference between him and Jeb, he's not trying to ignore the Republican base, and he's not trying to inflame it. He's trying to add to it. I think that's what his comments about Planned Parenthood are. I think it's what this and various aspects of Obamacare. When he slipped up and said he was in favor of the mandate and had to walk that back. I think Trump is actually trying to upset the electoral map. I think he's trying to turn states that are blue into red states, such as Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan. And I think he's doing it by saying things that are intriguing to people on the left. And you have to admit here, folks, when it comes to the Middle East, there are a lot of liberals that hate Israel. And that may be too strong. There are a lot of leftists who are not automatically on Israel's side. There are a lot of leftists, many Jewish leftists, like in Hollywood, who equate Israel with us in the sense that we are the big, bad wolf. We are the big, bad majority, and we've had our way. And we've been running around stomping on small people and little people and minorities. And it's about time we found out what it was like. The Palestinians are the equivalent of a victim group in this country. The Palestinians are victims of Israel. Just like homosexuals or transgenders or women are victims of American majorities, Republicans, white men, what have you. And I think that Trump, and remember, he's from New York. It's this culture, the leftist culture, is not a stranger to him. I think that he's shooting wide here. I think it offends people because these are Republican primary debates. The assumption is that you're going to target the Republican base, and then after you secure the nomination, that's when you sort of, according to the conventional wisdom rules, that's when you moderate. That's when you move left. And Trump, I think, is getting a head start on that. That's what I think is going on. Because you have to know that saying things like it serves no purpose to say that you have a good guy and a bad guy in the Middle East, I guarantee you Trump does not look at it that way in the way he lives his business life. He doesn't. He's trying to reach out and say things that will resonate with leftists. I think that's what the Planned Parenthood thing's all about. And I can be, he may actually like Planned Parenthood. I don't know. Either way, he's not taking the standard, ordinary, conservative or Republican position on these things. And he got hit for it for the first time last night. He got hit for it, and he was made fun of for it for the first time last night. So we will see. We will see. I think in the next debate, when this stuff continues to happen, were it me up there, I would think about pointing out what Trump may actually be doing here, and that is trying to reach across the aisle and appeal to some liberal Democrats with some of these things and, openly say, I can't believe we have anybody in this country that looks at the Israelis and Palestinians and doesn't see a difference. How do you not see good guy, bad guy? You can mock it and make fun of it, but I don't think that there are this is not incompetence on Trump's part on parade here. This is not ignorance or the fact that he's a political neophyte taking place here. Now, I mentioned also earlier that John Kasich had a couple things to say last night that just, well, they were frustrating just a little bit. And here's one of them. They were talking about the individual mandate and health care and Obamacare. And Kasich, once again, was saying, well, look, I'm the only guy up here that's ever done anything here. I'm a governor. These guys, I'm a governor. And we governors, we got to work with people. We got to cross aisles. We got to solve things. We got to get things done. We just can't pass things off. We got to get things done. I got to get done. He's waving his arms and hands up there. And he announced a way to lower health care costs and talked about how he's doing it, they're doing it in Ohio. And this soundbite is a fairly good example of what he was talking about.
We have a proposal, a plan that we're enacting now that says if you are a hospital or a doctor and you're providing very high quality at lower prices below the midpoint, some charge high, some charge low. If you are below the midpoint, we are going to give you a financial reward for allowing you to provide services that result in high quality for our people at lower prices. This is not a theory. This is what we are actually doing in our state. We will begin payments next year based on episodes that we have in our lives. If our primary care physicians keep us healthy for a year with really high quality, guess what? They will get a financial reward.
Okay, now I count 3 separate things that are giant red flags in that soundbite to me. And I'm thinking most people watching the debate last night didn't hear any red flags. Certainly not the ones I saw. And might have, this really sounds good. Working together and helping people. But here's the first thing I saw. This arbitrary acknowledgement of the very high quality, lower prices, and then the midpoint. You got high prices, lower prices, you got the midpoint. Some charge high, some charge low. So with the doctors. And if you're below the midpoint, we're going to give you a financial reward. So government still is involved in this. I mean, as they are involved in it now. But now they're picking winners and losers. And now they're going to tell these doctors, look, if you come in and you charge below our arbitrarily set midpoint, you come in and charge less, we're going to give you a financial reward. And I think most people applaud that. That's great. I don't. Where's this financial reward coming from? And how does that end up saving money? Who pays for the financial reward? Taxpayers do. What is the financial reward? What kind of incentive is it? What's the point here? This is just, it's not quite a Ponzi scheme, but it's robbing Peter to pay Paul. What is this financial reward to keep prices low? It's so somebody can say, I got the prices down. Look what our prices. And over here, you're going to fill them up in the back pocket and the back end that nobody sees with an amount nobody knows. But it's still government doing everything, and it's still government dictating and influencing the market, which is not going to result in actual prices being lowered. It's all being made to be artificial. And the key to that is the next word. If you're below, your doctor, if you're below the midpoint, we're going to give you a financial reward for allowing you to provide services. Spoken like a true authoritarian. For allowing you to provide services at a lower price, we are going to provide you with a reward after we've allowed you to provide service. And then the last thing, if our primary care physicians keep us healthy for a year with really high quality, guess what? They'll get another financial reward. It's up to the doctors to keep you healthy for a full year with really high quality care. You have nothing to do with it. As far as the government's Ohio is concerned, it's somebody else's job to keep you healthy. And if they do it for a high full year, then they're going to get a reward. What are you going to get? I don't know. Continued access to insurance coverage or what. The bottom line to me is what I heard in this answer is more and more government deciding more and more, affecting more and more under the guise of doing just the exact opposite, which it can't possibly do. We'll be back here. You got to hand it to Trump. He's changed the narrative, folks. I mean, this morning it was all Rubio, and it was all making fun of Trump and how successful Rubio and Cruz had been. And that's all gone. It's been replaced by Chris Christie has endorsed Trump. Press conference just concluded. Christie's approval number in New Jersey, last I looked, was at 29. I'm sure that's not a factor here in the decision-making that's gone on, but it has changed the narrative. I mean, it's done it pretty quickly. These are not rank amateurs on the Trump side. It's a mistake that people have made from the outset of this. One of many. Jeremy in Phoenix, you're next on Open Line Friday. Hi.
Dittos, Rush. Thanks for taking my call. I first want to tell you why I'm voting for Donald Trump.
Okay.
I started listening to you in 1990. I got a job with a painting contractor. I thought I was a Democrat, thought I was a liberal. I started listening to you, and I thought, wait a second, that's me. I went ahead and finished college, got a degree in political science, and started my company. My point is my entire political awareness life, I've been listening to you. We have allowed politicians in the ruling class to run this country for however long you want to say, 200 years. They've run it into the ground. We are $19 trillion in debt. If someone ran my company into the ground, I wouldn't hire Marco Rubio. I wouldn't hire Ted Cruz. I'd hire Donald Trump. Those men looked like toddlers pulling at the pant leg of an adult last night. We need an adult to run this country. Now, I'm a conservative. And if I want to sit around and talk about ideas about immigration or this or that, I can do that and get along with those guys. But one thing really upset me last night. When Marco Rubio thought he had a gotcha question on Donald Trump for hiring illegal aliens, I wanted to scream, who do you think hires illegal aliens? People like me. Businessmen, drywallers, painters, cement people.
So what you're saying is that unwittingly, Rubio actually ended up hurting himself by mocking this whole thing.
Who framed his house, Rush?
What was that?
Who put the roof on? Who cut his grass? Now, I'm all for immigration. Take them all away, round them up. I'd be out of business for about a week, but I'm an American, and I will survive.
Wait a second. Hang on just a second, though. Are you validating now supporting the whole concept of illegal immigration because they're good at certain jobs and at certain
I don't think it matters what Trump says right now. When Obama was running, we prayed for a candidate that it wouldn't matter what he said.
Well, there you have it. Folks, right there, it doesn't matter what Trump says. I don't know how you do battle with that. Seriously. Not putting down the caller. Do not miss it. Well, yeah, that's true. The Telemundo lady last night on the moderator, again, her name was Maria Celeste Arasa. And she only asked one question of everybody. And it really wasn't a question. She'd make a speech about Hispanics and illegal immigration and how they go together and how they're inseparable. And then say, don't you get it? And then the candidate would answer. She'd get frustrated, go to the next candidate, and repeat her claim. This woman her questions went longer than the allotted 30 seconds the guys got to answer. So she's going on and on about illegal immigration and Hispanics and how they're inseparable, how they go together. And then the next candidate, she'd say, doesn't he get it? Don't you get it? But there's one thing that did happen because of Maria Celeste Arasa and speaking Espanol last night, and that is she confirmed an allegation that Cruz has been making about Rubio, that he says different things to different audiences about amnesty and the Gang of Eight bill. And it was kind of in the weeds. At least it was to me, because the captioning couldn't keep up with it. And everybody was speaking pretty quickly last night. But that was the upshot of it. She ended up demonstrating, whether she intended to or not, that Cruz has been accurate in his attempt to get people to understand that Rubio is saying two different things depending on the audience. When he's speaking Spanish to an Hispanic audience, he is saying what he thinks they want to hear when it comes to Gang 8 and amnesty. And he's much more, shall we say, understanding, maybe even supportive of it, than when he is speaking to an English language audience. Here is May in Jacksonville Beach, Florida. Great to have you. You're next on Open Line Friday. How can we help you?
Yes, I'm calling because I think that Republicans have one last chance to expose Trump, and that is a guy called Rush Limbaugh. All the rest of today and all of Monday, you know Donald Trump better than any single pundit or person that's making claims. You tell him to put his taxes out there. So what if it's being audited? They're done. You call him on hiring illegal people to work for him. That is all I ask, but I do beg you to do that.
All right. Do you have your radio on, May?
No, sir, I do not.
Well, what do we hear? Is your TV on?
No, I'm in the Comcast office. I was holding for a little over an hour, and I finally figured if I do something,
I see.
maybe I'll get on the phone. But I'm walking outside. No, I left Comcast.
That would explain why you're frustrated. You're at the cable office.
No, I'm not frustrated about the cable. I mean, yeah, that's inherently frustrating. But, I mean, I just walked away from the guy that was helping me. I'm now back in my car. And I am begging you to expose this guy that you know probably better from playing golf with him, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I am afraid that the world is laughing at us. They're laughing at these cage fights we call debates. We seem to have forgotten what Robert's rules are. We insult each other. We don't have a real debate on the issues. It's sound bites. And the winner is the guy who can talk the loudest, insult people.
You know, May, you actually are onto something even more than you know. And that is what I would call it, disintegration or the Swiss cheesing of our culture in general. It's not just these debates. They are exemplary or an example of the decay that's happening culturally, and trying to pinpoint when and where this happened is impossible. I mean, depending on who you talk to, you could talk to somebody my age who's 65 who would tell you it's been happening their whole life. Others would try to pinpoint a time where it was okay, but then finally it reached a point where it's been on downhill trend since then, and they would pick a time in the 60s maybe or 70s. But here's an interesting, if you look for reasons why these debates happen the way they do, you mentioned the word sound bites. One of the best ways to explain what is happening and why would be to explain what has happened to late-night television. Johnny Carson doing The Tonight Show today, as he did it then, would be in last place. What determines the success or failure of a late-night talk show is not what happens on the late-night talk show. It's what of the content of the late-night talk show can be turned into a Twitter or Facebook or social media clip the next day that goes viral, that ends up promoting the program. Therefore, people that now write, produce, and host late-night programs are actually looking for content that can be promoted in 25, 30-second little video clips that goes viral the next day somewhere in social media. And that's how the programs get promoted. Now, in the old days, it was nothing but the content of the show in toto that determined its reputation and determined how it attracted and held an audience. You may have heard that, and you may have read, where the replacement for Letterman, Stephen Colbert, is having lots of trouble. His ratings are falling or have fallen. They're not even where Letterman's were, and there are people worried about it. And the reason being given is that nothing happens on that show that's worthy of tweeting the next day. Nothing happens there that's worthy of promoting on social media. And the supposed king of this is Jimmy Fallon on The Tonight Show. The supposed king of creating little bits that end up being promotable as 30-second video clips or what have you the next day or later that night, then into the next day on social media, determines the buzz that these shows get. Well, Johnny Carson didn't put The Tonight Show together with that in mind. He had an entirely different attitude about content. His writers and everybody had a totally different objective. They had to do a great 90-minute or 60-minute show every night. They had to sweat and slave over the guests they were going to have. But the segments themselves, the segments had to be funny, but it wasn't that they had to be tailored for an entirely different medium, which is what's happening now. So the trend toward insult, making fun of, mocking, the trend toward sound bites has been happening for quite a while. And we've been compressing. Twitter is 140 characters. 30 seconds max attention span for one of these viral bits from a late night show the next day. And even primetime TV programs, a typical 42-minute program with 18 minutes of commercials, they are written and produced that you can take a 30-second clip and circulate it around that suffices as telling everybody what happened on the show in the 42 minutes to get them to watch the whole thing or to buy it or to rent it or what have you. And these things just start evolving. And so when you get to a political campaign like this, I mean, look, I could argue that our politics hasn't been about substance since Bill Clinton. It's been about showbiz. It's been about how you feel. It's been, I feel your pain. It's been about all kinds of things that have nothing to do with substance. If it had to do with substance, Barack Obama would have never seen the light of day. This is what constantly bugs me when I'm forever pleading with people to understand liberalism. That's substance. You've heard my lament. If people understood liberalism, we wouldn't even be in this mess. They would never get elected if people really understood. That's why I blew a gasket earlier this week when I was talking to the lady from Brentwood, Tennessee, who told me we got to go back and do what Reagan did. Reagan brought people together. The unity argument in 1980 says that's not what happened. We weren't unified. But what did happen, we had the greatest economy. We had more full employment. We had the creation of wealth. We had the reduction of government. We had the reduction of interest rates. Everything good was brought down to the Soviet Union, and people lived through it and still were able to be talked out of it. 4 years later, they were able to be talked out of it, cast it aside, and go back and join the Democrats. And I had people explain, Rush, you're too close to this. You care too much. This is not how people vote. We had 8 years of Reagan, 4 years of Bush. People want to change. And I have to admit, that's probably right. They just want to change. You get tired of the same group of people being in power. Republicans here, time for Democrats. Give them a chance. But I think it's more involved in that because of the media and so forth. But the 80s were a period of great fear for the Democrat Party and the American left because it was demonstrated then that everything they believe in fails, just like it's being demonstrated now that everything they believe in fails. But the solution now is not to get rid of what they're doing. People today have been made to believe it's still all the fault of George W. Bush, all this stuff going on. Middle East, Iraq War, economy, recession. Yeah, it's Bush's fault. Obama hadn't been any good at fixing it, but it isn't his fault, people think. All of this is very frustrating, not just to you, frustrating to me too, folks. If you wanted substance last night, I told you early on in the program, you got it. You got a lot of substance last night in Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz was nothing but substance. Everything that came out of his mouth was solid, dead center, 100% substance. The news of the day was Rubio laughing and mocking, make fun of Trump, and the lines he got in and the jokes that he was able to crack and this kind of thing. You can sit there all day long and complain about the way things are, and it isn't going to change the way things are, and it's not going to help you. You have to be able to adapt to the way things are and be able to survive and get your message out and achieve what you want within the boundaries that have existed. You can include in your desires changing, let's change the culture, let's improve it, let's stop the rot. I totally support that. But at the same time, you can't succeed by just standing up and complaining about it. Not that anybody is, but it won't change anything. So it's a real challenge here to find your way in all of this. And when it gets like this, people always just fall back. Hey, American people are just so stupid. Damn it, they're just idiots. I don't know what we can do. And it's maybe somewhat of a factor, but it's not totally explanatory. There's an all-out assault on our dominant culture. There has been for years, and the assault is winning. It's working. I was watching Fox this morning, and there were people complaining about all the swearing that's going on now. They talked about Vicente Fox. He's dropping the F-bomb, talking about Trump and building the wall. And people on Fox, I don't remember world leaders ever talking that way before. And then George W. Bush, George H.W. Bush, they never talked that way. That's true. Not publicly, privately they did. Don't doubt me. But publicly they didn't. Here's Vicente Fox. He's going to build an effing wall. And then Trump responds by basically saying effing again and then condemning it and so forth. But it's out there. And it is changing. There is all kinds of changing rhetoric and stature and comportment. And it seems like everything's crumbling out there. Anyway, I take a break here. I'm way long, folks. I'm sorry. The next segment's going to be shorter than usual, but now you know why. Donald Trump is in Fort Worth. He is appearing before what appears to be thousands and thousands of people, and he's just destroying Marco Rubio. He's telling a crowd, and the crowd is rabid. The crowd is going bonkers. And he's telling the crowd he has never seen somebody be taken apart like Christie tore Rubio apart. I actually felt bad. I thought Rubio was going to die. I thought Christie had killed him. The kid, he's standing there. You can barely see him. He's shrinking. Christie, it was a great thing, but man, did I feel sorry for the guy. The kid, it was almost like he just wanted to jump in a swimming pool with his clothes on and vanish. That's how bad it was. I've never seen, and the crowd is roaring. And we led the program today with a 30-second soundbite of Rubio in Fort Worth, maybe Dallas, whatever, mocking and making fun of Trump and reading his tweets and so forth. And this is how quickly these narratives can change. Anyway, here's Mike in Richmond, Indiana. Great to have you. Open Line Friday. Hello, sir.
Hello. It's a privilege to speak with you, and I appreciate you taking my phone call.
Thank you, sir.
Two reasons that I believe if Trump is the Republican candidate, that the Democrats will win the election. First reason, which you touched on briefly, was how is he going to be able to attack Hillary for what she's done in the past when he supported her by giving her money? And the second, which I think is the most damaging, is the mainstream media wants Trump to be the Republican candidate. They know he's got enough skeletons in the closet that they're going to attack him from every angle. And if he thinks the Megyn Kelly question was rough, wait till he's the Republican candidate and the mainstream media starts asking him questions.
I don't think Trump's under any illusion. Look, McCain back in 2008 actually believed the media was on his side. McCain actually thought the media was going to vote for him and promote him. I don't think Trump's under any illusion here that the media like him. I think he's fully aware the media is going to try to destroy him. And my guess is he'll probably be destroyed, or prepared, rather, for whatever Hillary throws at him, at least whatever. But I understand it was one of Ted Cruz's primary points last night. That, we've already done this. We nominated Romney. We nominated a guy who could not attack the main reason we wanted to send Obama packing. That's Obamacare. We couldn't do it because Romney wrote Obamacare, first stage of it, called Romneycare. So we took it off the table. And Cruz's point was we're doing the same thing here with Trump. We can't go after Hillary for any of her corruption because Donald's donated to it. That was the point he was making last night. So, anyway, folks, we got to take another time out. I told you the segment was going to be short because I went a little long in the previous one. I appreciate your patience and your indulgence, and we will be back. Well, Trump just got through praising Ted Cruz. Smart guy, tough guy. Rubio, he's a choker. Not very smart. Cruz, he's tougher guy. Anyway, this is it's an on-fire, electrifying appearance that Trump has going in Fort Worth. We'll be back, folks. Sit tight. Okay, so Trump is still going down there in Fort Worth. And he just said, hey, they say I'm not loyal. I voted for McCain. What do we get? I voted for Romney. And they botched it so bad, I just said, I'm going to do it myself. And the crowd roars.
Live from the Southern Command in sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday.
Speaking of which, this Christie endorsement, would you say Chris Christie is, before today, would you have thought that he's part of the Republican establishment? I mean, I would. Republican Governors Association, head honcho. It was a classic, in fact, member of the Republican establishment. And these guys just do not go outside the establishment. Chris Christie has gone way off the reservation doing this endorsement of Trump. This is way off. This is I've been thinking about this, and it happened, it was unexpected, and I've been following it as it happens down there at commercial breaks, and I was starting to think, this is really, and I'm not talking about Christie's stature within the establishment, just his membership. This is a major defection. This is what Romney, the kind of stuff Romney was trying to stop by bringing up this tax problem. But this essentially... Now, there's some caveats. It looks to anybody watching this like it's over, that Trump's going to be the nominee. So it's not as though Christie broke ranks early on. It looks like he's breaking ranks, but he is endorsing the party nominee. But you and I both know this is not what the party wants. They may have to act like it is by the end of the summer, but they don't want this. They don't want Trump to be their nominee. And they are still, I guarantee you, plotting ways to prevent this from actually happening. They may not be able to pull it off. But here's the story right here. By the way, welcome back. Open Line Friday, 800-282-2882. Rubio prepares for contested convention. And this story actually leaked yesterday. It's the one that talks about the 200 donors and Republican establishment RNC power brokers huddling, trying to plot ways to deny Trump the pathway to the 1,237 delegates needed. Rubio prepares for contested convention. Marco Rubio's campaign is preparing for a contested convention as one option to take the GOP nomination away from the Trumpster. And Ted Cruz, his campaign manager, told donors at a closed-door meeting in Manhattan on Wednesday night. Terry Sullivan, Rubio's top advisor, used a PowerPoint presentation, took questions from attendees to lay out the two courses that Rubio's quest for the GOP nomination could take in coming months, according to two people who were there and spilled the beans to CNN, speaking anonymously. The first course of action showed the number of states and delegates Rubio would need to clinch the nomination outright before July. Who are we kidding here? Rubio hasn't won a state yet. And when that was pointed out, he said, well, it's not about states. It's not about winning states. It's about delegates. Yeah, but you, in the proportional states, you win the state, you get a majority of the delegates there. And some of the states are winner take all. The second course is the scenario in which none of the candidates gain the number of 1,237 delegates needed to clinch, which would unleash a messy and potentially unpredictable battle where multiple candidates are vying for the title. So Rubio is the establishment candidate now. I mean, nobody's denying that. And Christie has broken ranks and has now joined the Trump campaign. Let's go to the audio sound bites of that. This is Chris Christie in Fort Worth at an event. This event is over an hour long, and it is still going on. And this crowd is still at max energy, going absolute bonkers, as Trump is laughing at Rubio, making fun of Rubio, praising Christie, even praising Cruz. But he's taken it to Obama. He's taken it to Romney. He's taking it to ISIS. He's taking it to the border. He's praising Joe Arpaio and all the brilliant people that are supporting him and so forth, explaining how life works in Palm Beach. He said Rubio got it wrong, that he inherited $200 million from his dad. He said, I wish it was $1 million. It wasn't $200 million. So he's even opened a bottle of water, and somehow that was related to Rubio, and he started throwing water all over the stage. Shaking up the bottle, and this is what happens to little chokers in my camera. Shake the bottle up, and bam, throw the water all over everything. Here's Christie endorsing the Trumpster.
I am proud to be here to endorse Donald Trump for President of the United States. I'm doing this for a number of reasons. First is that Donald and I, along with Melania and Mary Pat, have been friends for over a decade. He has been a good and loyal friend to our family, as we have been to he and his family. And over the years, we've had a lot of wonderful times together. Secondly, I've been on that stage. I've gotten to know all the people on that stage. And there is no one who is better prepared to provide America with the strong leadership that it needs, both at home and around the world, than Donald Trump.
Now, folks, do not doubt me. That is a shotgun aimed at the Republican establishment. Chris Christie has just said that this outsider, who has no political experience whatsoever, is better than anybody he knows to tackle all of these problems, both at home and abroad. This is, well, I don't want to make too big a deal of it because of the timing, but this is a break. This is exactly what the RNC does not want happening, and I still maintain this is one of the reasons Romney was out there throwing down on Trump's taxes, was to freeze this kind of stuff from happening. Here's more Christie endorsing Trump.
The one person that Hillary and Bill Clinton do not want to see on that stage come next September is Donald Trump. They know how to run the standard political playbook against junior senators and run them around the block. They do not know the playbook with Donald Trump because he is rewriting the playbook. He is rewriting the playbook of American politics because he's providing strong leadership that's not dependent upon the status quo. And so the best person to beat Hillary Clinton in November on that stage last night is undoubtedly Donald Trump.
Well, let's just screw it in even tighter on the establishment. Let's just throw down even more. He's rewriting the playbook of American politics. He's rewriting. Nobody can keep up with Donald Trump. Everybody's backwards and behind times. Trump is so far ahead of the game that these political professionals have been devoting it their lives have no clue how to keep up with Trump. And here's even more.
The fact is that desperate people do desperate things. And I've seen it throughout politics, and so have you. And so the idea that Marco Rubio can get inside Donald Trump's head is an interesting proposition, but one that's really for the D.C. parlor game. What Donald Trump is about the people of this country. You know, I heard some of Senator Rubio's comments this morning. None of them were about the people of this country. When are we going to start talking about them?
All right, Rubio got to him. I mean, there's no question. Rubio's out there making fun of Trump, reading his tweets, making fun of his misspellings and so forth. And they do this deal that Trump's still going on as we speak. So here's Trump responding to all of this praise from Chris Christie.
They did speculate that he was going to be my vice presidential pick. Now it's obvious that he's not going to be. I never even had it in mind. I don't think he has the right temperament. I watched Chris do a number on him. I've almost never seen a meltdown like that in my life. And, you know, it's interesting about people who choke. I'm, believe it or not, a good athlete. I've watched people choke over the years. And once a choker, always a choker. It never, ever changes. The guy that misses the kick, misses the kick. When he misses the first one, you got to get rid of him because it doesn't work. Once a choker, always a choker. And that was one of the epic meltdowns. He didn't know where he was. I thought he was going to die.
It's actually a question from a reporter. Mr. Trump, a few days ago, people were speculating that Rubio wasn't going to go after you, and you weren't going after him. Maybe you had a secret deal to be Veep. And that's what Trump's reacting to. No freaking way. What did Vicente Fox? No freaking way he's going to be my vice president. But now, you know, Kasich has to be looking at this and gulping a couple of times. Because there's only one reason for Kasich to stay in. Well, there's always more than one. There's fundraising, there's the lecture circuit, there's a chance to earn money the Hillary Clinton way by making speeches. But I think Kasich still does, dream of maybe being on the ticket as vice president. And he's got to be, he's maybe doubting his chances now that Christie has officially endorsed, which might launch Christie ahead of Kasich in any kind of line of succession, so to speak. Speaking of Kasich, here's the second Kasich bite. I have to say, everybody in that stage last night, Trump included, got the Apple versus the FBI question wrong, in my opinion. I think they all got it wrong, and they got it wrong in a way, to me, that was alarming. There was an automatic, without any question about it, siding with the government on this. Let me ask you a question. Quick question. Let's imagine a pharmaceutical company. Let's give me a name of a pharmaceutical company. GlaxoSmithKline. GlaxoSmithKline. Give me the name of a drug. What is it? Prozac, Zoloft. Give me a name of a drug that's widely prescribed and used out there. Prozac. What did I say? Proloft. Prozac. It calms you down, right? Is that what it's supposed to do? Well, anyway, it's widely used out there. Suppose that you run the drug company that makes Prozac, and you get a phone call from the FBI. And the FBI is asking you, in a few pills, to put some arsenic or cyanide, because you want to make sure those pills end up in the hands of Ayman al-Zawahiri or some other Islamic jihad terrorist. Would you do it if you ran that drug company? Would you knowingly poison one of your products with the assurance, oh, no, it's only going to go to the terrorists. We're going to make sure that will only be prescribed to the terrorists. I know it's just, Russ, that's the craziest analogy I've ever heard. I don't care. I need to come up with something, because this is not about a terrorist's phone. Apple is being asked to write a specific operating system that ostensibly is only going to be on one phone. This one, it doesn't make any sense. There are Fourth Amendment and Fifth Amendment protections against law enforcement being able, the way this is being done is with this All Writs Act, this 200-year-old law that basically says if law enforcement's having trouble, you have to help them. Well, law enforcement is supposed to have trouble. Where does this end? If a company can be forced to modify their product in order to make law enforcement's job easier, where does that stop? Not to mention a company has got a product and the government's coming in and ask them to design it in a way that makes it dangerous and harmful and potentially worthless, with the promise, no, but it's only going to be the only version of it. We don't want you to make more than one code. Well, the code's going to be written. And let me tell you something a little bit about software, folks. Most people don't think about this because it's too hard. But these are intricate things, software programs for operating systems. There are thousands of people that write the software for your iPhone or iPad. They're in teams. It's so intricate. It is so complicated. But here's the point. At every stage of development, it has to be documented, recorded, and logged, and signed off on by a whole bunch of supervisors in case there's a lawsuit down the road over something that might be a flaw in the software. There's no way to keep it secret, is the point. Now, Tim Cook at Apple said that it would take a number of people. You have to take them off their jobs at present, assign them to write this specific government OS, that they would all know what it is, that their supervisors would know what it is, that the logs would know what it is. It's impossible. There would only be one copy of it that would then be destroyed. You can't destroy it. You've got to keep the record of it. You have to keep copies of it. You have to keep the logs of it because of what might involve or be involved with it down the road. It can't be a one-off. It can't be just for Saeed Farouk Skyhook's phone. But people that normally have this distrust of government, just last night, oh yeah, we can't let anybody stand in the way of getting to the bottom of terrorism. Well, that's all well and good, but that's not where this is going to stop. I know, I can take a break here, and we will continue to try to get as many of your phone calls in on this, because I know you want in when we get back. Okay, back to the phones. I promise we get back to the phones. We've got Trump sound bites from this rally here where he mocks Rubio. Folks, something happened here. I'm telling you, this rally, I don't think this was scheduled to go on like this. Rubio's out there today. This morning he's in Fort Worth, and he's mocking Trump, continuing what happened last night, laughing at him, making fun of him, reading his tweets, making fun of the fact that they're misspelled. The audience is eating it up. I think that what happened in the debate last night from both Cruz and Rubio obviously hit a nerve in the Trump campaign. Because they are out there today reacting to this. They're not making it try to look like that, but they are reacting to it, and they're going at 1,000% energy here. And Trump is just trying to destroy Rubio. Here, grab somebody at 35 real quickly, just to give you an example. I mentioned this in my own words about an hour ago, but this is actually Trump saying it.
I watched Chris take a man apart, and I looked at him, and honestly, I thought he was going to die, Rubio. He was so scared, like a little frightened puppy. And he kept saying the Obama phrase over and over. So then I heard it once, and I said, that's fine. Big deal. I'm standing here. He's right here. Chris is over here. And Chris was sort of cool because he's like this. I couldn't do that. You know, I want to stand up sort of like straight. I don't know.
It wasn't over, folks. It was just getting going here. Number 36, 3, 2, 1.
This looked like Perry Mason. That's what it was. And Chris started going into him. So he said the Obama phrase once. I was fine. Twice. I said, he just said that. That was strange, but that's okay, right? Twice. Then a third time. And I said it was like a robot. And then a fourth time and a fifth time. And I said, this guy's cracking up on us. And he was sweating so badly. I have never seen anything like it. It looked like he just jumped into a swimming pool with his clothing on.
Now, I'm watching this on both Fox and CNN, and the CNN InfoBabe report, I don't know who it is reporting on this literally with deer in the headlight eyes. She cannot believe what she's watching. And then she's trying to tell viewers what they just saw, and you can tell she's in shock. She's never seen anything like this. And, of course, I can totally understand that. I mean, these CNN people are used to the button-down white shoe caricature culture of pinstripe suits, that foggy bottom at the State Department with everybody prim and proper and so forth, and they deal with this, and they don't know how to react to it, and they don't know how to characterize it, and they don't know how to report it. And so when they do report it, they cannot hide their fascination with it all. And Trump's out there saying, you know what it's going to be from this? It's going to be Merry Christmas from the, no more Happy Holidays. Have I got it right, Pastor? Have I got it right? The pastor, he's going to make me hold to it. I promise it's going to be Merry Christmas. We're going to have the greatest Christmas parties. We're going to have the greatest Christmases ever. We're going to have the greatest country. We're going to have the greatest borders. People are going to get in, but it's going to be the right people. We're going to let them in. We're going to have the greatest borders. We're going to have the greatest trade deals. Carl, it just never stopped for an hour and a half. Like that. And wait for it. The Politico is out already with an article on the 7 times Chris Christie said that Trump was not fit to be president. Yes, sirree, Bob. The Politico's already out there. And I guarantee the rest of the conservative media is going to be out there with the long knives out for Christie as well. This whole thing just got, if it's even possible, this thing got ramped up even more today and this afternoon. Because it's, as the president of Mexico would say, it's nut-cracking time out there now, folks. And here's Dave in Broad Ripple. I'm glad I pronounced that right. Indiana, great to have you on the EIB network, sir.
Thanks, Rush, and intellectual nutritionist dittos to you.
Thank you, sir, very much. We try. We try to do our best.
Oh, you do. You more than try. You do. I'm calling the one interesting thing, or the dynamic of this election, I think, and you're a big part of this, has been to expose the establishment as the third party that they warned us not to vote for. And when you think about it, that's who they are. They're the implausible third party that survives, really, and this will sound harsh, but when you think about it, it's not. They survive solely in a protection racket of what is really resume fraud. They don't deliver. They promise, they never deliver, and the people have figured it out.
Okay, what does that say about the Democrats, though? Because the establishment's actually, I mean, when you strip it all away, the establishment made up of the same people. Some of them are Republican, some Democrat, but they're both. They have ideological differences, but as you see, the Republicans are not standing up for theirs.
No, and the problem is the Republicans figured out they liked all those perks too. They abandoned representation in favor of self-service, and people are at an all-time level of awareness, and they're done with it.
Well, here's what I think about this. I mean, it's interesting that you refer to the establishment now as the third party. I know what you mean, that they all of a sudden, out of the clear blue, end up the minority. I mean, they're the outcasts. They're the ones that are not the primary movers. This movement, call it what you want, populist, nationalist. The populism's been around forever. Nationalism, relatively new as it relates to the current populism. But nationalism is also a movement that has timeless aspects and characteristics to it. But this anti-establishment mentality has been around. It's not new. It didn't just come to life in this campaign, and it was not birthed with the Tea Party. The modern era of this anti-establishment mindset, and whatever you want to call it, anti-Washington, anti-professional politician, whatever. In the modern era, I can trace it back to at least the early 1990s. And I'll bet you if I thought about it, I could find roots of this stuff all the way back in the 70s. And I think now in the modern era, because populism has been around since the country's been around. I don't mean to say that there's never been populism before. I'm talking about the current incarnation of it is much older than what people living through it today think. Trump did not give birth to it. It's not an insult, criticism. You could say Pat Buchanan was the grandfather of all this if you wanted to. I mean, he's the one that ran against George H.W. Bush in 1992. And he did it on many of the same premises, sort of Perot, that Trump is running today. Buchanan's primary assault was on NAFTA, and that was the powers that be, American corporate interests aligned with political interests, conspiring to destroy American manufacturing. I mean, that was a prominent characteristic. It was beaten back in the 90s. It was partially beaten back by the ascension of Newt Gingrich's contract with America, the Republicans and conservatives winning the House in 1994. And that became the home of whatever populism you wanted to describe. I remember calling Pat Buchanan a populist on this program back in the 90s. And I remember a lot of people just getting mad at me. He's not a populist, he's a conservative. It was considered an insult. Today it's a badge of honor. But even back in the 90s, and even before that. I think you could trace it maybe even to the 60s with the beginning of the demise of the American culture. There have been people, small numbers at first, growing and growing, angry and distrustful of what's happening in Washington. But it was always small, and the people that gave voice to it were categorized as kooky and fringe. And then jumping way forward with the Republicans and the conservatives winning the House in 1994, remember what that was thought to be. That was thought to represent, finally, a continuation of the Reagan 80s and a further ascension of conservatism. And there was real anger when that bunch of people failed. Newt Gingrich, John Kasich, as an example, was a member of that freshman class. John Kasich of the 1990s is not the John Kasich you saw in that debate last night, for example. But back then, there was a genuine excitement that conservatism was ascending. And then the Tea Party comes along in 2010, anti-Obamacare, anti-establishment. And again, it's thought that it is a conservatism that is ascending. The media attacks it as such and tries to diminish it by relegating it here to kook status, when in fact this has been building and building. It predates the Tea Party. You can find definite roots of this all the way back in the 90s. It has taken a while. And I think the reason it's come to a head now is because people understand the country as founded is really at stake here. The last 7 years are not something that portend a bad future. The past 7 years are not something from which we can devise theories of what's to come. The past 7 years are the manifestation of the horror and the evil and all the rotten, terrible things that can happen when the people are ignored and abandoned. And the political class, for the first official time in people's lives, openly mocks and makes fun of and disregards the people that elect them. And there's even a strain of this happening on the Democrat side now with whatever's going on with the Bernie Sanders campaign. But it's real, is the point is. And this stuff has deep foundational roots now. This is not just a Trump cult, is the point. It's, and I maintain to you that the depth of this anti-establishment mentality, mood, whatever you want to call it, is so deep. That's why Trump can't hurt himself with impolitic things that he says or does. And it's why substantive criticism that in many people's minds exposes Trump as the neophyte, political neophyte that he doesn't hurt either. In fact, the more distance somebody has from anything that reminds anybody of politics as usual, the better. The more inexperienced, the more incompetent in the ways of Washington, the better. That's how deep the anger and distrust is. And that mindset is shared by a lot more people than the establishment thinks. Now, how big it is, we won't know. We won't until there's a presidential race, and if all this, as it is now, maintains itself and grows. But there is sheer panic everywhere in professional political circles. You can see it. You can see the evidence of it each and every day. You see the futility. I guarantee you. Well, I can't guarantee you, but I'm pretty sure. Watching a debate last night, certain anti-Trump people, be they pro-Rubio, be they pro-Cruz, be they pro-establishment, whatever, were probably thinking, all right, finally this guy's been exposed. This Trump guy's been exposed, and he's nothing there. There's nothing there. The guy can't handle an assault. He can't handle any legitimate criticism. The guy's got nothing. He's just a big wad of nothing. And those same people, if they've seen the Trump rally today, have lost all that enthusiasm, and they're sitting there back in the depths of depression wondering what the hell happened last night. Because they are still of the opinion this is all fleeting. Go back to the early moments of the program. People wanted to know, where was all this last night in previous debates? Where was Cruz and where was Rubio attacking Trump months ago? Why did it not happen until tonight? And the answer is everybody thought Trump was going to bomb out. Everybody thought Trump was going to implode, or everybody thought Trump was going to quit. One thing or another, Trump wasn't going to finish. And in the meantime, nobody wanted to anger his voters. So they didn't go after Trump, because they wanted to be there to pick up Trump's voters when it was widely assumed he would quit the race or be defeated or what have you, or implode. But it isn't happening. And so now the anti-Trump forces are left to lament that, yeah, it was great last night. Oh, man, but they're all reporting it's too little too late. You can read the fatalism, defeatism in some of these people. And as far as I'm concerned, I just watch it play out here each and every day. And I find aspects of it, like you, frustrating, maddening, and others I find uplifting and fascinating. So we just keep our eye on it, keep our heads level here, folks, and that's what I am for. Don't doubt me. Back after this. Here's Larry, San Antonio, Texas. Great to have you on the program, sir. Hello.
Hey, Rush. Can you hear me?
Well, thank you, Larry.
Can you hear me, Rush?
Yeah, I hear you. Just fine.
Yes, Mega CIO Extreme Cigar, 20-year dittos to you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes. As a veteran of the armed forces, I have to salute you. You're a true patriot and conservative to me. You've worn your true colors, as far as I'm concerned, each and every day of the 20 years that I've listened to you. My wife has me beat by about 8 years. Many may not like it or get it, but I do, and I appreciate it.
No. Most people do like it and get it.
Yeah, your humor.
You're in the majority, Lair. Don't worry about that.
No, I'm not worried about it. I appreciate your humor. Your humor is really, in addition to the history and my education on present-day politics, it's your humor that really gets me through, your human wisdom that really gets me through this undivine comedy that I've had to live with the last 7.5 years.
I appreciate that, and I especially appreciate that because this program does feature a combination of things that you normally don't find in one presentation, and it's the serious, deadly serious discussion of issues, combined with an irreverent, off-the-wall sense of humor with credibility on both sides, with immediate transition from one to the other. You don't often see that in other places, and I'm glad that you have picked up on that. Made my day, Larry. Appreciate it. Everybody have a great weekend, and we'll be back on Monday with whatever happens between now and then and whatever else is going on. See you then. No, the other Kasich bite was, and I can save it for Monday, was his idea for solving the Apple FBI encrypted phone problem was to get everybody in a room with the president and solving it. That's not... Anyway, well, maybe save that for Monday, but that's what that was. Anyway, have a great weekend, folks, as I said, and we will be back on Monday. Don't miss it.